So that's me. This is the team. And this is the outline, why pragmatic trials matter. Sean has already mentioned a lot of important things. I will talk a little bit about SWEDEHEART registry. We are leading when it comes to the National Quality of Care Registry, and we are using that platform for pragmatic clinical trials. And that is a legal controversy. If we are going to perform an advanced clinical trial design for the benefit of society, as researchers, we must be prepared to end up in jail, and I'll tell you the story. I almost ended up in jail for these advancements of the methodology, I will tell you. So the problem is, this is our hospital, Sahlgrenska University Hospital. It's the largest hospital in Sweden. So we are back 1.2 billion crowns. I mean, it's, that we need really to find the tools that will effectivize the utilization of the limited resources. We need high quality and evidence to support choices in health policy, but there are systematic flaws, and Sean has provided the evidence for that. And we all know this pyramid of evidence. We need to find out what works and what is cost effective. Not only what is work, but what is also cost effective at the populational level. And as Sean has, 10 years ago, which is rather late in my career as a researcher, I was not sufficiently aware of what Sean said, that RCTs have severe and serious limitations. This is the summary. So I think, I don't know if you agree with me, this is perfectly legitimate to study. Homogeneous group, we need to show that something works somewhere under certain conditions. Drug A, from the industry, that they want to find out whether it prevents strokes or limits the mortality in patient myocardial infarction under some conditions. But as a public servant and making decisions for the society, we many times would like to know how will that intervention work at the populational level. Are we using our resources in the right way? So it might end up, it works under some conditions, but not under other. And I think this one image tells more than 1,000 words. We would like to, so this is a lot of the chain of causations, of course. So any, from A to I, right? Any of these missing links is sufficient not to translate the data, the effects of from randomized controlled trials. Just think about that image. It's called Rube Goldberg machine, and it's really, it helped me to understand what we were talking about for years, efficacy versus effectiveness, internal versus external validity. Just linger 5 more seconds for you to soak these words. Please read it. And I will recommend this paper from 2016 from Angus Deaton, a Nobel Prize laureate from economics 2005, and Nancy Cartwright, philosopher of science. This is a severe criticism of the limitation of the RCTs. I have it on my desk every day. I'm kind of all the references. I think it's maybe 40 pages, so you need to read it repeatedly in order to understand. I am MD. I'm not statistician. I'm not epidemiologist. But if you give it time, you will get the point. And particularly this, we argue that any special status for RCT is unwarranted. So that particular sentence is the upper captured my attention, and I read it all, and I'm still reading it. So we need to construct a learning healthcare system. For example, in Sweden, we are rather advanced in usage of quality of care registry. So we have constant evaluation of the healthcare results, giving the introduction of new diagnostic methods, intervention, and so on. And I think the time has come to introduce phase 4 RCTs that will look at the effectiveness in more structured manner. Yeah, so as I said, Sweden is leading. We have approximately 120 different registries, from the diabetes to cardiology, orthopedics, oncology, and everything is follow up. And one of the perhaps most advanced is our SWEDEHEART registry that I will take a particular attention to. And there are some disadvantages and advantages when it comes to the pragmatic randomized controlled trials. I will just go on and continue with Swedish National Care Registries. So we are using the registries for different aims: safety or follow-up, patient outcome, clinical research, economics, epidemiological studies, collaboration with the industry, real-world studies. And SWEDEHEART has been particularly successful in pragmatic control randomized clinical trials. So this is the schematic representation of the SWEDEHEART. The SWEDEHEART consists of several. We have the registry for coronary care patients, myocardial infarctions, for angiography, PCI, heart surgery, secondary prevention, TAVIs, and catheter intervention when it comes to cardiogenetics and so on. There are almost all, by now, all hospitals are participating and reporting to the registry. Again, some statistics there are, for example, when it comes to SWEDEHEART, there are, the moment you put the ball over the hospital entrance, you will become a member part of 10, 20, 30, depending on your diagnosis. And that's because average Swedish citizen is not paranoid. We trust our institution that they will not misuse our data. Feedback, it's very useful. One particular, it's as citizens in open societies, we would like to see what our healthcare system, what the results are they providing, giving our tax resources, and we continuously compare the different hospitals when it comes to the outcome, mortality, complications. It's online. Everyone, you also can go to the web page and download the results. And journalists particularly like to compare, Stockholm and Gothenburg and so on. I suppose the same goes for, is it? Now, what we are leading, we have that platform, which is really very unique. And then we say, wait, we were reporting this data ever since 1989. And we are good at that. We have our registries. And then I'm interventional cardiologist. And then we said, why don't we use this well-functioning infrastructure and registry and dedicated colleagues, medical doctors and nurses and everyone else who's part of our healthcare system. Let's do a randomized clinical trial. Let's find something that has really high score and precise too. And that was this one. So at that time, was 2009. There was a small trial published in New England Journal of Medicine, one of those ugly 300 patients, and in patients with STEMI, estimation myocardial infarction, there's a thrombus aspiration that got a huge, penetration after a study that was bad. 300 patients, New England public, and it just skyrocketing the number of procedures that we were doing in Sweden. We know day for day how many this 1,200 euros catheter costs mean. And then we said, let's construct a study. This is our registry. After every single procedure, angio or PCI, you go to the web page and you fill, it takes not more than 5 minutes. You fill the reports about the patient characteristics, procedural characteristics, and so on. Every single hospital that perform these procedures do that. It's 100% coverage and funding by Swedish health authorities only. And let's say we have a patient with a STEMI. I'm interventional cardiologist. He's on my desk. We have approval from ethical committee to have verbal informed consent. We have the study. You are eligible, this and that as a pros and cons, and are you willing to participate in that study? And that's about, do we need to aspirate or do we not need to aspirate? Patient consent. And then we just push the button, randomized and save. And then, the procedure should be done with aspiration or not. In 2013, the results of our study, it's 7,244 patients, which were randomized within 1.5 years. And there are other studies that we did. Do we need oxygen? By the way, the conclusion was that we don't need thrombus aspiration. It's, not effective, so we saved a huge amount of money. The next study we did, 100 years of usage of oxygen in treatment of patients with myocardial infarction without proper evidence, we will say. We did that. It's not necessary in patients that are not hypoxic. And a number of other trials that were clinically relevant and pragmatic. And in my hospital, we managed to randomize 1,000 patients within the 1.5 years. The average randomization inclusion rate in any conventional studies is 1.3 patients per month. So this is highly effective. If you were on ESC, there was a 5 all-time high, 5 late-breaking clinical trials, all of them potentially guideline changing or are guideline changing if you look at from what anticoagulation therapy you need after a CABG surgery, to do we need to routinely eradicate Helicobacter pylori in patients undergoing PCI intervention during acute coronary, and so on. The next level I submit to you when it comes to the pragmatic randomized clinical trial will be cluster RRCT, and that's the jail risking platform. So what happens? So we have individual randomization versus cluster randomization. We can choose cluster based on administrative unit, unit of time, and so on. There are some advantages and disadvantages when it comes to the cluster RCT. I just move a little faster. So we designed, there's other different ways to conduct a cluster randomized studies. We opt for this stepped wedge randomization. For doing this, SWEDEHEART. Being an interventional cardiologist, so we are very keen of anticoagulation. Everything is about, more or less anticoagulation, given what we do in our everyday practice. So back in, when was it? A number of years ago, there are these two competing drugs, prasugrel and ticagrelor. Prasugrel was out of the patent, why ticagrelor was still patent protected. And this ISA-REACT 5 trial showed that prasugrel, cheaper, out of the patent, was a little better, was better actually. And it got a higher level of recommendation in the latest guidelines. But what did you say, Sean? UK mafia or what? you chose the right words. Let me continue on that. So ticagrelor is a Swedish drug, I say, AstraZeneca. So it has 100% penetration, and anchoring was really fast. And we said, but due to this budgetary restriction, so we are considering higher level of evidence. We are considering switching, we and some other regions in Sweden, but not all. And then we said, instead to do it haphazardly, let's organize this transition by means of randomized cluster phase 4 clinical trial. So we designed it, and we are actually addressing the same hypothesis effect size as ISA-REACT 5. Not all counties wanted to opt in, but we got 7 regions that corresponds to 2/3 of all patients with acute coronary syndrome that were eligible for it. So this is the design. So the study has been officially ended when it comes to follow-up in 1st of September 2025, and we are approaching 25, probably 30,000 patients. Does it work? We have our registries, the hospitals so we have, as you see, the ticagrelor is going down, prasugrel is taking up, and hospitals that are participating in the study show the uptake of one and decrease of the other. I think it was a STEMI, and this is for non-STEMI patients. Again, it works. When we agree about something, we implement it. And this is because prasugrel is half the price of ticagrelor. This is too good to be true. So we have infrastructure because the difference in price. So we conducted the trial that saved money. It gets millions. Of course, it costs, but we had infrastructure, and it was part of the everyday clinical practice. Now comes the controversy. When you did something potentially, destructive, when it comes to the status quo, you will attract resistance. And then you get all barrage over you. So when you are approaching your target, and when the cannons start, firing, and you hear that maybe you are doing something valuable. And that's what. So then comes the ethical complaint. You are doing a study that's not approved, and so on. Of course, it was not right, so we dispelled that. But here's the thing that you can end up in jail. I'm a PI, and we were asking our Swedish medical agency. It's corresponding, I don't know, in England, you have something similar. You need to get approval to do your RCT in the patients. Even if we ask them, do we need it? They said no. A year and a half later, I get a letter. It is our understanding that you are Sahlgrenska University Hospital conducting a legal trial. And long story short, we appealed the decision, and that was first, administrative court ruling. They appealed, the court rejects their appeal. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. So we won, and it has a potential repercussion for all EU. And ending up with extending Pragmatic RCTs to the international network. We are collaborating with the other people that think like we, which is very important, and we are running in the same aim, CABG versus PCI in different countries, and we will eventually pool our data. Every country conducts the pragmatic trial in their own way, and then we will pool all the data and look at mortality, and the next phase will be, to do a platform RCT in this network. So thank you very much.